Welcome to the deep dive.
Hey there.
So today we're jumping right into one of the really big conversations, maybe even arguments happening in software right now.
Yeah, it's definitely got people talking, that's for sure.
You've got these, cautious veterans on one side saying things like, no vibe coding while I'm on call.
Right, kind of drawing a line in the sand
But then on the complete other end, you have giants like Google's Sergey Brin really pushing AI-generated code.
and reporting these huge speed ups, right? Like 10x, even 100x.
Exactly. It's quite a gap in perspective.
It really highlights that tension, doesn't it, between, how things have been done and what AI is making possible now.
And right in the middle of all this is this term vibe coding. It kind of started as a meme almost.
Sort of, yeah. Coined by Dr. Andrej Karpathy, who was pretty central to ChatGPT over at OpenAI.
Right. And now it's evolving into something, well, potentially industry changing.
That's what we want to unpack today in this deep dive. What is vibe coding really?
We'll be looking at why folks like Gene Kim and Steve Yegi Tech veterans themselves are calling it a fundamental shift in their new book.
Yeah, vibe coding. Building production-grade software with Gen AI, chat agents, and beyond will explore the potential, the impact.
How you as a developer might need to adapt, and crucially, some of the surprising risks too.
Definitely need to talk about the risks.
Okay, so let's start there. Kim and Yag talk about a fundamental shift. What's the heart of that change? How we actually build software.
It's essentially about partnership. So instead of you, the developer, handcrafting every single line of code,
Uh-huh.
you're collaborating with an AI. The AI generates the implementation details.
So it's less manual crafting, more strategy, orchestration.
Exactly. Orchestration is a great word for it. You're guiding the process.
And it's not just for like small isolated functions, is it? It sounds much broader.
Oh, absolutely. It covers the whole life cycle. Think brainstorming architecture,
Okay.
researching solutions, obviously implementing features, but also writing tests, hardening security,
Wow, okay. So the AI is a partner across the board.
pretty much everywhere, yeah.
That really flips the roles. I remember that quote from Dr. Karpathy.
Oh, yeah, the one about barely touching the keyboard.
Yes. He says, I just talk. I barely even touch the keyboard. I ask for the dumbest things like decrease the padding on the sidebar by half because I'm too lazy to find it.
Huh. Right, it perfectly captures that shift. You're the director, not the typist.
The orchestrator, not the executor.
Yeah,
And the results people are seeing already are pretty wild.
they really are. SourceGraph's head of AI, Rishabh Mehrotra, he built this complex prediction model.
Oh,
Usually that's like a 6-week job, right?
at least, yeah.
He did it in half a day.
Half a day, that's transformative.
It really is. And look at Y Combinator. Gary Tan, the CEO, mentioned something staggering.
What was that?
For their winter 2025 batch, about a quarter of the companies, get this, 95% of their code was LLM generated.
95%.
Yeah.
For a quarter of the new startups?
Yeah.
It suggests that for those teams, the human role was almost entirely orchestration from the very beginning. Think about that.
That changes everything about launching a tech company. Staffing, speed.
Wow.
Exactly.
So, okay, speed is obviously a huge factor, but Kim and Yeg have this framework, right? The good FAAFO.
Yes. FAAFO. Fast, ambitious, autonomous, fun, and optionality. It helps capture the full value proposition.
Let's break that down. Fast is the obvious one, compressing timelines.
Right. Months become days or hours. And that speed boost feeds into everything else.
Which leads to ambitious. How does that work?
Well, if implementation is suddenly way cheaper and faster, you start thinking differently about what's possible.
Okay. So projects that seem too big, too complex.
Suddenly they're on the table. Or even those little improvements, the nice to haves that never got prioritized because they weren't worth the effort. Now you can just do them.
Right. It lowers the activation energy for everything.
Precisely. Then autonomous.
This is about individuals doing more.
Yeah. Work that might have needed a whole team or at least multiple people coordinating. Now one person partnered with AI can potentially handle it.
That cuts down on communication overhead, meetings.
Exactly. Less friction. And then there's fun, which sounds a bit fluffy, but it's important, right?
I think so. Programming can involve a lot of tedious grunt work.
Totally. Debugging silly syntax errors, fighting with libraries you don't know, writing boilerplate code over and over. Vibe coding aims to automate a lot of that drudgery so you can get back to the creative problem-solving part, the fun part that got you into coding in the first place.
Bringing the joy back. I like that. And the last one, optionality.
This one's really powerful, I think. It's about exploring multiple paths.
How so?
Instead of betting everything on one approach, because that's all you have time for,
Uh-huh.
you can ask the AI to prototype, say, 3 different ways to solve a problem in parallel.
Oh, wow. So you can compare them, see the trade-offs.
Exactly. You can evaluate different implementations quickly and pick the best one within a time frame that previously only allowed you to try one. That's huge for design quality.
Okay, that FAA-FO framework makes a lot of sense. Fast, ambitious,
Yeah,
autonomous, fun, optionality.
it covers the benefits really well.
And this isn't just theory. We're seeing it in big companies already. Adidas, for instance.
Yeah, they did a pilot. 700 developers.
And the result.
They reported spending 50% more time in happy time, that's their term for creative focused work, after getting AI tools.
50% more creative time. That's significant.
And their best teams hit 80% happy time. Plus, their SVP of digital tech, Fernando Cornago, he said 91% of the developers wouldn't want to go back to working without AI help.
Wow. That's a massive endorsement.
It really is. And look at Booking.com. They have this huge old code base, right? Decades of stuff.
Technical debt, yeah.
Yeah.
A nightmare scenario.
Exactly. Their VP of DevX, Bruno Passos, deployed specialized AI agents
Specialized agents for what?
to tackle problems that were basically intractable before, like parsing these enormous GraphQL schemas, millions of tokens, or breaking down massive 10,000-line legacy functions.
Stuff humans would just dread doing or couldn't do effectively.
Pretty much. And the results. A 30% productivity boost. Code reviews got much lighter, faster delivery times. The AI helped clean up the old mess, not just build new things.
That's a key point dealing with legacy systems.
Yeah.
And it's not just Megacore. You mentioned Luke Burton.
Yeah, a veteran engineer, Apple, NVIDIA.
Right. He built a Python app, like 2,600 lines.
In 2 hours, while multitasking.
That's insane. What did it do?
It automated firmware uploads for CNC machines. A real pain point for makers.
Huh.
It's a perfect example of one person plus AI solving a problem for a whole community, something neither could easily do alone.
Makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What little side project could you knock out in an afternoon with this?
Exactly. So if you're a developer listening to this, what's the takeaway for your actual job?
Right. Kim and Yeg make a really critical point here.
They do. Delegation of implementation doesn't mean delegation of responsibility.
That's huge. Just because the AI wrote the code doesn't mean you're off the hook.
Not at all. You still own it. Your users, your team, they expect you to stand behind every single line.
So how do you manage that? They talk about the head chef mindset.
Yeah, it's about shifting your role. You need to create these fast and frequent feedback loops. That's the key. Those loops are the stabilization force when development is moving so quickly with AI.
You're not just coding, you're managing the process, orchestrating.
Exactly, which means learning new skills, like task decomposition, breaking big problems into chunks the AI can handle effectively.
Okay, what else?
Strategic checkpointing, knowing when and how to verify the AI's output, and this idea of tracer bullet testing.
Tracer bullet testing, what's that?
Think small, very targeted tests you run frequently as the AI generates code, just to make sure it's staying on the right track, hitting the target, little
Yeah.
sanity checks along the way.
Gotcha, so continuous verification.
Yes. And also managing potential conflicts if you're using multiple AIs or agents. They call it agent contention detection, making sure they're not stepping on each other's toes.
Across different stages too, right? Your local machine, integration, deployment, those inner, middle, and outer loops.
Precisely. And this isn't just for individual developers. Leadership needs to change too.
From kitchen management.
To wiring the kitchen for AI collaboration, leaders become socio-technical maestros, orchestrating people and AI.
It sounds quite empowering, honestly. Less time on syntax, more on the actual problem solving.
It can be incredibly liberating, but it also demands more judgment, more accountability, which for many will make the job more fulfilling, not less.
Okay, but let's talk about the flip side. When things go wrong. Because they can, right?
Oh, absolutely. The AI can go seriously off the rails, and Kim and Yeg are very open about their own mishaps. Some are pretty scary.
Like the vanishing tests.
Yeah, Steve Yegi's story, his AI assistant just deleted 80% of his tests. Silently. No warning.
80%. Just gone.
Whew. He compared it to Godzilla cared for Tokyo. Just destruction without malice, you know?
Ouch. And Gene Kim had his own horror story.
The Eldritch Horror codebase? His AI tool spun out of control and created this monstrous 3,000-line function that was completely incomprehensible. Took him days to fix.
3,000 lines of just what?
Just generated madness, apparently. And maybe the most terrifying.
Uh-oh.
The Vanishing repository, Steve Yeg again. His entire code base, thousands of files, weeks of work just disappeared.
Oh.
From where? From his local machine in the remote repo. Gone.
How did he recover?
Pure luck. He happened to have one terminal window still open that had a copy of the code loaded. That was it.
My stomach just dropped hearing that. That's the ultimate nightmare.
Right, so these things can happen. The AI isn't infallible.
So, okay, those stories are alarming,
Mm-hmm.
but the authors say these are manageable risks. They have this prevent, detect, correct idea.
Exactly. It's not just about being careful. It's about building systems and habits.
How does that work in practice? Like
Yeah.
for the vanishing tests example.
Well, okay, so prevent might be setting up checks in your version control, like warn me if more than X% of files are being deleted. Or even having another AI review the first AI's proposed changes.
Okay, safeguards.
Detect is about those feedback loops we talked about. Running tests frequently, doing code reviews even if it's AI generated, having monitoring in place, catching deviations quickly.
Right. Don't just trust blindly.
Never. And correct is having solid rollback plans. Good backups, clear audit trails, knowing how to undo changes quickly if something goes wrong. It's about resilience.
Make sure the speed doesn't break everything.
Exactly. As they say, we've made these mistakes so you don't have to. Learn from their pain.
It's good advice. Now, looking ahead, this is where it gets even more mind-bending, isn't it? The exponential growth.
Yeah. Kim and Yeg really emphasize this. Humans are notoriously bad with exponentials. We just don't intuitively grasp that kind of growth.
And they calculate AI cognitive power is quadrupling. How often?
Roughly every 18 months.
Quadrupling, not doubling.
Quadrupling, which means, by their estimate, models could be 4x smarter by mid-2026
That's soon.
and 16x smarter by late 2027.
16 times smarter in just a few years. It's hard to even picture what that means.
Exactly. Think about future capabilities they mentioned, like AI getting actual episodic memory.
Remembering past conversations. Learning your specific style.
Yeah, context that persists,
Hmm.
and context windows expanding potentially infinitely.
So the AI could understand an entire massive code base all at once, not just snippets.
That's the idea. Imagine debugging or refactoring complex systems then. It changes everything.
The economic side of this is also wild. Some economists are talking about
Yeah.
100% annual GDP growth.
It sounds outlandish, right? But the logic is that if everyone can suddenly build and deploy software solutions much faster, you get this explosion of innovation and productivity across the board.
A Cambrian explosion of software.
Kinda, yeah. And companies are already leaning into this hard.
Like that Shopify memo from Toby Lutke.
Exactly. Telling teams, before you ask for more people or money, prove you can't do it with AI first.
That's not just suggesting AI, that's making it the default assumption.
It's foundational. It signals that this isn't a trend. It's the new way of operating.
So let's kind of wrap this up. The debate over vibe coding.
Yeah.
It feels like it's shifting from if to how and when.
I think that's right. The evidence is just mounting too fast. It's becoming a reality on the ground.
You look at Adidas getting 50% more happy time for developers.
Or Booking.com using AI agents to finally tackle that ancient legacy code.
And individual stories too, like Christine Hudson getting back into coding after 20 years away because these tools make it accessible again.
It's powerful stuff.
You drew a parallel earlier, like graphics programmers moving from manual calculations to using engines like Unity.
Yeah, they stopped calculating vertex normals by hand and started directing whole worlds. It's a similar kind of abstraction shift.
But the speed of this shift feels different, much faster.
Incomparably faster. That's the key. The pace is unlike anything we've seen.
Which brings us back to that quote from Dr. Eric Meischer.
The days of writing code by hand are coming to an end. It's a bold statement.
It really is. But looking at all this, maybe not so crazy.
Maybe not.
So the provocative thought we want to leave you with is this. It really isn't if vibe coding will transform software development anymore. The question now is, who is going to harness this power? Who will use it to build the things we previously thought were impossible?